Be me, about 10 years old, live in rural area. Neighbors are cow fields. It's about 10 o'clock at night. I'm getting ready for bed. As I'm getting ready, I notice there's no bug noises outside. Think that's weird as I live in Louisiana and there's always bugs. Always. Decide to peek out the window. Look out the window, and there's a man staring right at me. Look into his eyes for what feels like hours, unable to scream or look away. This man wasn't a normal man. His face looked like he had been burned, and that it didn't heal right. It was just this lumpy, stretched out mess, and he was smiling at me. Finally, the spell was broken, and I screamed. Dad ran outside looking for this man. Found no trace, only feet impressions on the grass. I used to live on what I would call a cursed farm. Move in a farm with mom, an abusive mom's boyfriend. Place has an extensive history of dead people. Last owner died electrocuted when he tried to fix a light on an electric pole outside. Pretty stupid considering electric poles are not private property, but whatever. First few months, mom seriously injures herself 3 times. All 3 occurrences needing serious medical intervention. Attic is sealed shut. Constantly hear footsteps in the attic and other assorted banging noises. Get pushed by an invisible thing while doing farm work in the storage barn. We stay less than a year and sell the place. I wish I could also say that my mom's abusive boyfriend from that time was possessed or some shit. But he was just that much of an asshole. Things kept happening to me, to my mom and his kids. But nothing ever happened to him. Maybe he was just that fucking evil of a person that the curse thought he was a bro or something. But the real irony in this is that none of the paranormal shit that happened to us in there came even close to the kind of violence that we had to endure from him. And as I said, it would be easy to pin it on the curse, except that we lived in many places before and after that farm. And this guy was about exactly as evil as he always was when he came into our life. 8 years old, riding my bike around in the woods on the edge of town. Gets dark. Come back into town on a trail that goes right behind a pizza place. Come around the back of the pizza place and see a man lying on the ground on the other side of a chain link fence. Perched on top of the man is Death. Scythe in one hand, tattered dark gray cloak, hood overhead. Literally the Grim Reaper. Death's hand is on the man's chest. Death turns and looks at me. All I see is the bottom of its chin, bone white under the hood. Instant reaction is pure terror. I scream. Immediately switch from terror to anger and start screaming some more. Get away from him! Over and over. Someone from the pizza place hears me, comes out the back door, sees what's going on, and calls the police. Turns out the guy on the ground was some homeless guy who had passed out. And Death was just another homeless guy who saw a passed out person and was searching through his clothes, either trying to find money or drugs. The reason I saw bone was because the guy was pale as shit, and his scythe was just a walking stick. Not everything can be spoopy, I guess. Explain me this. Having a walk in the woods with my dog. Find a stray dog identical to mine. She seems quite docile, so, okay, maybe it has an owner. I'm a volunteer in an animal care center, so I have a microchip checker when I have a walk with my dog. Check her. It's a female, like mine. The ID says it's my dog. What the fuck, .jpeg? Check mine. Same result. Okay, .png. Do this twice with same results. Decide to pick her up to my car, which has a cage big enough for 2 dogs, to leave her in the animal care center. Had to stop at a gas station because low fuel. Go to check the cage. Only my dog is in there, and she's scared as fuck. Cage was perfectly closed, so I don't understand shit. I don't openly freak out because I was in a public place. Be me, usual weeknight. 1 a.m. in the morning, about to go to sleep. Hear tapping on window. Bro is closest to the window on the couch. He suddenly yells, "There's a crazy person in robes outside." What the fuck, that JPEG? Instincts tell me to grab my 9. Yell at bro to open the side door and see who this fuckhead is. On the staircase, pointing my 9 at the side door. Just as the door opens, chamber around. Oh shit, that JPEG. I'm about to drop some crazy fuck at my side door. Bro yells, "It's our neighbor, Anon." It turned out to be my neighbor in a chicken costume that had a chicken head as the hoodie part. I was so shaken because I honestly thought I may have had to kill some crazy fuck. Why in the fuck my neighbor thought to come over in a chicken suit at 1 a.m. is beyond me. Also, I scared the neighbor because they heard the gun chamber around. Not really spoopy, but strange. This is a memory I have from when I was around 6 or 7, so not really young, nor old. I used to spend time with my dad in the rural area that he's from. He was a simple, hard-working countryman and used to farm work, and a simple lifestyle. Also an alcoholic, but in general, a good man. Be me, 6 or 7 years old as I mentioned, hanging out with my dad. He drove his pickup to a relatively isolated piece of land that he owned. He would do random chores like cutting up wood, check hunting trails, and so on, and would take me with him so I would learn and help him. This time, we're just sitting in his truck doing nothing. It's getting dark, so we must go back soon. He's just finishing his 40 and looking through the windshield as the night falls. "Look over there, Anon. Look at the firebirds." What? See a bunch of raven-like birds flying around, shooting small fire beams out of their beaks, like in a synchronized dance. Continue to look at them in awe for a couple of minutes. Dad finishes his beer and drives home. As incredible as it sounds, I thought nothing of it and forgot about it. Months later, I ask my dad about the firebirds. He doesn't know what I'm talking about. My face went. He was a troubled man in his youth as well. We'll post a story next. When I was older, 11 to 12, I started calling my dad crazy old man as part of a game. We were used to jokes, so it didn't seem that disrespectful to me. One day, my mom talked to me and asked me to stop calling him that, because apparently some old girlfriend of his tried to make him go insane. She didn't give me more details, but here's the story. 30 or so years ago, Dad was sort of a handsome man. Not quite Chad, but he was charming to women. Had his fair share of women, or so I've been told. One of them is a crazy bitch, though. Apparently she was, or knew someone, who was into black magic stuff. I assumed Dad got what he wanted or just got tired of her, so he dumped her ass. Girl got butthurt and threatened him. "You will go crazy for me." Months later, Dad got really sick. I'm talking heat strokes, delusions, weakness, etc. His family thought he was going to die. One day, he just stands up from his bed, goes to the kitchen, and confronts his family members aggressively. Grandpa and uncles try to calm him down. He had one older brother and 3 younger ones, but somehow overpowers them all. They are all freaked out. He gets in my grandma's face, tells her that she should fear him. She's a very religious woman. Tells him that she can't fear her offspring. Dad throws a heavy-ass sewing machine across the room and storms out of the house. Comes back some days later, wearing the same clothes. Doesn't happen again. Me and brother are in room on the floor, late at night, and our parents are asleep. We aren't supposed to be awake, so the lights are off. We're just quietly talking to each other and messing around with some Legos or something. We're more or less whispering back and forth non-stop, like kids do. Something suddenly crashes downstairs. Probably the cat knocking something over. We both pause, but the whispering doesn't. We look at each other. We are definitely not doing it. Something behind my brother moves. I go to say something, and I get a brief view of it as a car passes. What I can only describe as a mummy is lying under my brother's bed, looking at me. It's not a bandage-type mummy. This thing looks like a body that's been left baking in the sun for decades. It has very big teeth. It is reaching for my brother. The whispering is the sound of its skin on the floor. I scream and jump up, turn on the light. It's there for a split second, then it's gone. Brother thinks I'm crazy. He didn't see it. Never tell him about it. Shove a bunch of boxes and sleeping bags under his bed. Make up some shit about seeing a mouse under there. He doesn't question it. Never saw it again. True story. Be a freshman in college, super high, walking through your dorm with your friend at 4 a.m. Group of what we wrongfully assume to be students approaches us, starts conversation. Conversation feels unnatural. They awkwardly shift the discussion towards God. Ask me if I believe in God. My friend says, kind of. I say no. They ask me if I've ever heard of the Mother. What the fuck, .png? Tell me they've created a student-run God club, and I should join. They tell us it meets at a church in town. We know they're lying because all student groups meet on campus, not off campus. They keep trying to convince us to come. They tell us that we should come right then. Keep in mind, it's like 4 a.m. We get freaked out, lie about having to go meet some people, and we take off. Friend and I duck into my room and ran about how fucking weird that was. We went to a tiny school, less than 2,000 kids at the time. I've seen basically everyone at the school, at least once. But I have never seen those kids before, and have not seen them since. Worked construction when I was younger. Set out to repave a residential road. It's a really rural area, early morning. Not a soul in sight. I'm using my roller, going a good steady slow speed. Sleepy, so I'm not really paying attention. Suddenly, this little kid runs out from the tree line. Possibly 3 or 4. I don't see him until it's too late. He ran right in front of me, and I squashed him. He was so small, he basically sank into the thick tar. I went into shock. I stopped the rig and looked around. No one saw it. No one is screaming. Literally, no one saw it happen. So, I made the dumbest decision in my life. I ran over him until I couldn't see him anymore. And I kept going. Half an hour later, a woman came by absolutely hysteric and asked if we'd seen her son. Nope. .x. To this day, that woman has no idea what happened to her son. He's literally right under them. I want to apologize, but I can never admit that I did it. It's too late now anyway. Experiences you've had at work. Part 1. Been working on an ambulance for a few years. Last 5 months has been in a beach town on the west coast. Most calls are bullshit. Rich old assholes from the cliffs always crashing cars and having heart attacks. Harbor scum and homeless always ODing on heroin and whatever else. A lot of death, but all explainable and all expected. We're trained to understand MOI, mechanism of injury, only as a way to anticipate injuries, not readily visible. Over the last few months, I went on a few calls that I couldn't understand, and saw things I couldn't explain. The first call. Dispatched to an unresponsive male at 06:22. Barely awake from busy full moon night cleaning up degenerates. Partner and I drag ass getting out of the chute. Bodies found in the morning have usually been there for hours, aka they can't be saved. Pull up and see the morning joggers that called it in on the beach. Fuck, time to work. Start CPR for appearances because crowd watching. Body is crumpled face down in the sand, with clothes ragged and shoes missing. First thing I notice is the skin. Cold. Ice cold. Wet, but not soaking wet. Really pale. Almost white. First compression comes up soft. CPR 101. Good compressions break ribs. Every rib in this guy's chest was already shattered. Third compression. I feel his heart in my palm. I keep pushing out of habit, but start looking him up and down. Collarbones and arms fractured too. See his face for the first time since rolling him. What the fuck, that JPEG? Every bone in his face is broken. The eyes are either gone or too smashed in to see. And not a drop of blood anywhere. Whole body shivers when I realize just how dead this guy is. Call it right then and there. Code 914C. Get sheriff's corners involved. Part 2. Looking back now after looking up the run numbers for the calls, I realize the space between the first and second, then third call are all a month apart. Not about a month, I mean down to the exact day. The second call. Dispatched to a traumatic at 0307. Look at call notes while en route. A drunk couple pulled boat into mooring off L Dock when they found him. No further notes. Whatever, they're drunk. Make it to the waterline before I notice the sound. Partner and I usually mess around and call back to the barking seals. Absolutely silent, except for the boats settling against their slips. Not a single one anywhere on all the docks or low-riding boat decks. Maybe migrated? I don't know, fuck seals. Bring the gurney down the dock. Sheriffs and firemen are already there, all moving flashlights around the ground. Get close enough to see what they're stepping around. Blood. All over the fucking place. High velocity shit. Long arterial looking spray patterns along the deck and up the sides of the two nearest boats. Fire motions towards a second larger group, standing 30 feet further down the dock. Start moving towards them when the blood suddenly stops about halfway. Join the circle standing around the beat to shit body. 55 to 65 something older guy, graying hair with clothes ripped mostly off and stained with blood. Not a single drop of blood anywhere on his skin. Back bent impossible around at the waist, feet facing the ground torso and above facing up. Arms and legs contorted with angulated fractures. Eyes, sockets, and empty and bored deep into his head, looking straight up. Don't even check for a pulse. Sheriffs professionally tell us to fuck off before we mess up the scene more. Part 3 of, I guess, 4 now. Again, I don't do investigation. I only know what I know because I need to know about mechanisms, because I need to know how to put people back together. I've worked in 2 counties and more than 10 cities. Some of the roughest areas in this half of the United States. And I've never seen shit like this. Word in town gets around about the dock murder. Old people with too much time love to talk shit, I guess. Doesn't faze my partner at all. He's been doing this too long to care about anything other than running his calls. Guess I couldn't ask for more. The third call. Another 4 weeks to the day. Dispatched to a technical rescue at 0130-ish. Basically, someone is stuck as fuck, go get him. Far side of harbor on the break wall. Big rocks all stacked to protect the harbor from swells. Covered in bird shit, seals, and homeless fishermen during the day. Some high school boys were out smoking when they found him. Word comes down that the sheriff's helicopter is grounded due to fog. Time to get wet. All of us grab out bags and start climbing over rocks out the jetty. Tide is high, highest it's been in a while. Finally make it out there to find Mexican 40-something-year-old, wedged between rocks. Head first in a space between boulders, just at the water line. Tackle box, backpack, and rod covered in blood, like the rocks around him. We all work to lift him by his broken legs from the water and rocks. At this point, I don't even have to see his face, but I still look for some fucking reason. The eyes are gone, and the holes seem to be staring at you wherever his limp head rolls and turns. Spend the next hour climbing over rocks with his body strapped to our backboard. Finally get to turn him over to the coroners right about the time they take inventory of his stuff. Part 4. 3 days later, I'm back on shift. One of the sheriffs who was there last night with us helped go through everything in the backpack to try and ID the guy. He said they found a phone in his bag, one of those flip phone prepaid pieces of shit. They had a family member unlock it once they got down to the sheriff's substation, which is 2 doors down from us at City Hall, so they could answer some questions. They found almost nothing on the phone, few photos from the day, and caught a few fish and took some pics of them. The last 3 pictures are of the waves getting big enough to break over the jetty. Last picture is the pic above.